So if you want to completely disrupt the global agritourism industry, you don't actually need a better tractor.
No, definitely not.
Right. Or like a flashier gift shop. What you actually need is an anxious 4-year-old guinea pig and a lost sloth.
Which sounds completely absurd, I know.
It does. It sounds ridiculous. But welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. Today we are unpacking a stack of sources that, well, on the surface, they just look like a really simple piece of children's entertainment.
Yeah, just a cute bedtime story.
Exactly. We've got this audio excerpt and a text document for a story. It's called Susie and the Shingles. Book 1, Susie Gets Left Behind. And it's actually the first installment in this massive 10-book series within something called the Storylands Atlas.
Which is such a huge project.
It is. And as I was digging into these materials, it became super clear that this is not just a bedtime story. I mean, you're telling me this is actually a blueprint for a completely new business model.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Right.
I mean, what we are looking at here is a fundamental attempt to just, rewrite how families interact with physical spaces.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does it do that?
Well, it's basically taking real, actual operational farms and turning their everyday reality into this massive interactive storytelling legacy.
Wow.
Yeah. And to really understand the mechanics of how this works, we have to look at how the story establishes its baseline. So the origin point for this entire universe is a real place. It's called Chestnut Brae.
Right, which is in Nana.
Exactly, in Nana, in the southwest of Western Australia.
The text describes Nannup so vividly, by the way. Like, it paints this picture of a place where absolutely nothing hurries.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, it says the trees don't hurry, the air doesn't hurry. Even the light is described as coming down slowly. Like, it's just taking its sweet time deciding where to land.
I love that imagery.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it mentions the air smelling sweet, like cut timber. And I really love this detail. It says it smells like old yarns.
Yeah, that sensory description, it's highly intentional.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because before the narrative introduces any magical elements at all, it grounds the listener and, the visitor in physical reality. Chestnut Brae is a real working farm.
Right, they actually hand-milled chestnut timber there.
Exactly. So by emphasizing that pale gold light on the timber and the really slow pace of the environment, the creators are essentially establishing a physiological baseline of calm. And that contrast is critical for the narrative tension that happens next.
Because the calm gets shattered pretty quickly, right? Like, the characters just bring the chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
You have 4-year-old Georgia who pays deep attention to all these little details, like a butterfly or this interesting carving. And then you have a plump guinea pig who apparently harbors very strong opinions.
And is highly critical of someone's hair, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have Georgia's parents, Allison and Jordan, and they're just in full-blown panic mode because the tour bus is leaving and they've lost Susie.
Which is Georgia's small toy sloth.
Right.
It introduces this incredibly relatable family dynamic right off the bat.
Well, wait, let me challenge that for a second.
Sure.
Is a parent panicking over a lost kid's toy and a missed bus really the foundation for a fun family farm trip?
I mean, it sounds stressful, right?
It sounds incredibly stressful. Usually tourism marketing shows families just like smiling blissfully while eating an apple or something. Why start with a panic attack?
Because it mirrors reality. I mean, let's be honest. And it immediately shifts the traditional power dynamic of a family outing.
How so?
Well, in traditional tourism, parents are the directors. They manage the schedule, they solve the problems, they, herd the kids around.
Yeah, that's true.
But by sidelining the parents with this logistical panic worrying about the bus, the story creates a vacuum. It actually forces the child, Georgia, and the animals to become the active problem solvers.
Oh, I see. And the problem solvers here are a group called the Thunderclucks.
The Western Australia chapter of the Thunderclucks, to be precise.
Right. This chaotic chapter of free-range poultry who just decide to adopt this lost sloth.
It's brilliant.
The dialogue in the audio excerpt is just absurd in the best way possible. Like, they arrange themselves in a circle to inspect Susie, who is just sitting quietly on a fence post.
Just minding her own business.
Exactly. And one hen with these big glasses pecks the post and says, "Righty," and another counters with, "Lefty."
Typical chicken debate.
Yeah. And then they just start marching Susie down toward the chestnut shingles, just babbling the whole way. One chicken complains, "I'm hungry." Another replies, "I've got gas."
And a third chimes in, "You've always got gas."
Yes. And then one random chicken just states, I like cats. It feels like it's operating on pure, unfiltered kid logic.
It really is. It is tailored perfectly for a young audience, hitting all the right notes to be a massive bestseller. But structurally, the Thunderclucks and Susie Stranding, they are doing very heavy lifting for the broader agritourism model here.
Because the Storylands Atlas isn't just confined to Western Australia.
No, not at all. The narrative leaps all the way across the ocean to Pingle's Farm in Ontario, Canada.
And the sources outline this fascinating connection here. It turns out Susie getting left behind on that fence post in Nanup wasn't an accident.
Right.
It was actually her way of knowing that a magical play park was on its way to being built at Pingle's Farm in Ontario.
Exactly.
The company building it is called Cap.co. But I'm kind of struggling to see how reading a book about a park makes a physical farm better.
What do you mean?
Well, if my kid is just staring at a book or an app about a sloth, aren't they ignoring the actual farm we paid to visit?
See, that is the crucial distinction here. The book doesn't replace the farm at all. The farm actually becomes the book.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, Cap.co play parks are described in these documents as magical, physical storytellers. They aren't just generic playground equipment dropped onto a field somewhere.
Right.
They're actual architectural manifestations of the story itself.
So how does that actually work in practice? What is the mechanical difference between a Cap.co park and, a normal neighborhood playground?
Well, instead of a generic plastic tube slide or, standard swing set, imagine a massive wooden structure carved and constructed to look exactly like the chestnut shingles from the story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So a child isn't just climbing a ladder. They're pulling a specific wooden lever that the Thunderclucks used in Chapter 3 to open a gate.
That's so cool.
The physical environment demands that children engage with the space as if they are literally characters within the ongoing Storylands Atlas. It completely changes how kids play and how they use their imaginations.
Because the lore is literally baked into the wood and the ropes.
Exactly. They are an integral part to the specific park they are building at Pingle's Farm. What they've done is taken real life and made it into a magical storytelling legacy.
So we are taking an actual farm in Western Australia, complete with a real chestnut miller, who, by the way, the text notes has an unforgettable body-to-hair ratio.
Such a great detail.
It really is.
Yeah.
And an actual farm in Ontario, and wrapping them both in a shared narrative. How does this disrupt the business side of traditional agritourism?
Well, think about traditional agritourism. It usually monetizes the exit.
Monetizes the exit.
Right. You visit a farm, maybe you walk a corn maze or you pet a goat. And then the primary economic driver is funneling you into the gift shop to buy expensive jam or a t-shirt before you leave.
Oh, yeah. I've bought a lot of that jam.
We all have.
Yeah.
But the interaction is largely passive. This narrative model, on the other hand, it monetizes attention and active discovery.
By wrapping the farm in a developing mystery.
Exactly. Families stay hours longer. They're actively engaged. They're hunting for clues. And they're really exploring the physical space. That heightened engagement inherently drives up the perceived and the actual value of the visit.
And it redefines everyone's role, too. The sources make a big point about how this fosters intergenerational connection.
Yes, that's a huge part of it.
In this new model, the kids are positioned as the brave discoverers. The elders, like grandparents, for example, are positioned as the knowledge givers. They're the ones passing down the old yarns.
Right.
And the parents finally get to just, be parents. They don't have to be the cruise directors constantly trying to entertain the kids.
It relieves an immense psychological burden on the parents. The physical space itself, guided by the narrative architecture of the play park and the book, provides all the direction.
It's almost like turning a farm into a massive open-air escape room.
That's a great analogy.
Because in a normal escape room, the puzzle forces everyone in the family to look at the exact same lock and work together to figure it out.
Right.
Here, the story is the lock. It forces the parent and the child to look at the exact same physical space, like the same carved fence post or the same chicken coop, and solve it together.
Exactly. And by doing that, they are breaking into a deeper emotional connection. And because they are solving it together, this shared storytelling invites families to create their own highly specific farm memories.
They aren't just consuming an afternoon out.
No, they are actively participating in the legacy of the farm.
But, knowing the farm has this grand cross-continental legacy doesn't necessarily help a parent in the middle of a stressful moment.
That's true.
If you are a parent listening to this and you've ever taken a kid to a new, highly stimulating environment, you know it can go sideways super fast. fast.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does the story actually help a family when the magic wears off and a kid is just, like, completely overwhelmed?
Well, the creators actually anticipated that exact scenario.
Hmm.
The sources include a dedicated section called Game Time, the Nan-Up Nature Look.
Oh, I loved this part.
It's so smart. It takes the macro concept of the Storylands Atlas and scales it down to an intimate, practical tool for meaningful bonding time.
Yeah, I found the instructions for this so compelling. The text notes, you don't even have to be at the farm to play it.
You can do it anywhere.
Right. You can do this at home, in your backyard, or just walking down a footpath. You basically take Susie, or really any small toy you have on hand, place her nearby, and tell the child that she is watching.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. Then each person takes a turn. You have exactly 60 seconds to find items fitting specific prompts.
Like a scavenger hunt.
Yes. You have to find something rough, A-N-D, something smooth, something that makes a sound, an outside smell, and a place a bird might sit.
It creates a really structured, time-bound mission.
And then you bring all the items back, put them in a pile, and everyone has to pick their absolute favorite item.
And explain why. Right.
Yeah, you explain why it's your favorite in exactly one sentence. If you give a good reason, you tell the child that Susie blinks, because the lore states Susie only blinks for a good reason.
I love that.
But beneath all these fun rules is this well-being note for grown-ups that claims this is actually an emotional regulation exercise.
It is a brilliant application of clinical psychology wrapped in play.
Well, if you've ever watched a toddler spiral into a meltdown because, I don't know, a tractor was too loud or they dropped a snack, you know logic does not work.
Yeah, not at all.
You can't just tell their amygdala to calm down. So how does finding a rough leaf actually fix a panicked brain? What is the mechanical process happening there?
The mechanism is called sensory grounding. When a child is panicking, their nervous system is locked in an overdrive loop.
Right.
Their brain is entirely focused on internal distress signals. But by issuing a highly specific, time-bound physical directive like find something rough and smooth, within 60 seconds you are literally hijacking their sensory inputs to force a neurological reboot.
Wow, hijacking the inputs.
Exactly. You force the brain to reallocate its processing power away from the internal panic and toward the immediate tactile external environment.
It interrupts the panic loop by giving the body a mandatory assignment.
Yes, you are engaging touch, sight, and smell.
Hmm.
Furthermore, the mechanics of the game require turn-taking, which forces a slowing down of the interaction.
Yeah.
It establishes a predictable rhythm, which signals safety to the nervous system.
And then that final step, having to explain why an item is your favorite in one single sentence that feels incredibly deliberate too.
It absolutely is. It forces the brain to cross a bridge.
A bridge.
Yeah, it moves the child's processing from the emotional reactive centers of the brain into the cognitive expressive language centers. It equips them with the ability to articulate a thought clearly after a moment of dysregulation.
That is fascinating.
It is a highly sophisticated tool for calming an anxious child, presented entirely as a magical interaction with a toy sloth.
It really reframes the entire concept of dealing with a tantrum in public. You aren't just, dragging a crying kid to the car.
Right.
You are stepping into a shared imaginary world together to solve a physiological problem. That turns a moment of panic into a moment of really meaningful bonding time.
It builds a bridge between the parent and the child, and between the child's internal state and their physical reality.
Which is so valuable.
It is. But the Storylands Atlas goes one step further. It builds a bridge that traditional agritourism usually struggles with.
Which is?
The bridge between the physical farm and the digital world. This is where the whole 10-book series really builds a connected world across continents.
Ah, right, the digital crossover. The sources introduce this concept of digital rooms and an online atlas. But let me push back here for a second.
Go for it.
You just talked about how important it is to physically ground a kid by touching rough leaves and smelling timber. If you send them to an app, aren't you just undoing all that grounding and sucking them back into a screen?
If it functioned like a traditional app, yes, absolutely.
Because most apps just stare at you.
Exactly. Most tourism apps pull your attention down to your phone.
Yeah.
You're looking at a map on a screen instead of actually looking at the farm.
Yeah.
But the Storylands Atlas reverses the flow of attention entirely. The app doesn't tell you where to look. The farm tells you when to use the app.
Okay, walk me through how a kid actually interacts with this on the ground. Like, what are they doing?
Well, when you visit Pingle's farm or Chestnut Bray, you are actively searching the physical environment for a carved shingle number.
Like a literal physical carving.
Yes, it's hidden in the real world. You have to touch the wood, explore the Cap.co play park, and really engage with the physical space to find it. And only when you physically locate that carved number do you go to StorylandsAtlas.com and enter the code.
And the reward you get on this site is really unusual.
It is.
It doesn't give you points or like a digital trophy. The source says it unlocks an incomplete fragment.
Right.
For book one, entering the rune just gives you a single curved line. It's literally just the outline of a chestnut. And the text specifically tells the user that it won't make sense yet and that, quote, that's correct.
It is leaning heavily into the psychology of incomplete tasks. The digital reward is enclosure. The reward is a mystery. Because the digital fragment is incomplete, it actively encourages the child to look up from the screen and keep exploring their physical surroundings to find the next piece.
There's a prompt the Atlas gives you when you enter the code that I found so striking. It says, what did you find that you weren't looking for?
That prompt right there changes the fundamental nature of visitor engagement.
It really does.
It trains children not to just rush from the slide to the petting zoo, but to actively scan their environment for anomalies. It validates their natural curiosity.
It makes them realize that, the plump guinea pig or that weirdly shaped rock isn't just background decoration. It might actually be part of the story.
Exactly.
And this engagement creates a massive digital legacy for these physical farms. I mean, a kid could be sitting in their living room months later, open their digital atlas, see that fragment of a chestnut, and be instantly transported back to the smell of cut timber.
And the memory of hunting for thunderclucks with their grandparents?
Yes. It creates a long-lasting story that isn't dependent on being physically present at the farm anymore. Emphasizing how this model creates lasting digital legacies for physical farms it's brilliant.
It really is. And, the creators really thought through how to bring that physical sensory experience home, too.
Oh, with the recipes.
Yes. The sources include a recipe for gluten-free chestnut brownies.
It seems like such a small detail, but it's not.
Not at all. Think about it. If you bake those at home, you are physically measuring ingredients, smelling the baking chocolate, and tasting the chestnuts.
You are literally consuming the themes of the adventure in your own kitchen while talking about sushi.
Exactly. It ties the physical taste directly back to that digital first rune fragment they unlocked online. It is a masterclass in full-spectrum world building.
It really is. I mean, we've traced such an incredible mechanical journey today.
We really have.
We started with a deceptively simple children's story about a quiet sloth named Susie left behind at Chestnut Brae in Western Australia. We explored how that accident was actually a beacon connecting the story to Pingle's farm in Canada.
Across the world.
Yeah, and we broke down how Cap.co play parks aren't just playgrounds, but architectural storytellers that reshape how kids use their imaginations by embedding the narrative right into the physical structures.
Which is completely changing the game.
It is. We looked at how this model disrupts the traditional agritourism business by monetizing attention and active discovery rather than just, the gift shop exit.
Right.
We unpacked the very real neuroscience behind the nanup nature. Look, showing how parents can use sensory play to reboot their kids' nervous system during a meltdown, turning anxiety into deep bonding.
A lifesaver for parents.
Seriously. And finally, we saw how digital runes and incomplete fragments flip the script on screen time, using digital tools to push kids deeper into their physical surroundings and creating a lasting digital legacy for these farms.
The architecture of this entire project is just phenomenal. But, there is one final detail in the sources that profoundly challenges how we usually experience tourism.
Oh, what's that?
At the very end of the digital crossover section, regarding the physical carved eggs or shingles you might find on the farm, there's a very strict rule laid out for the visitor.
Okay.
That says, the rule, don't keep the carved egg, move it on.
Wow. Leaving it behind on the fence post, just like Susie?
Exactly. It forces us to confront our own habits. In an era where our first instinct is to possess things, to collect souvenirs, and to hoard physical proof that we experienced something, what happens to our relationship with the world around us when we realize the true magic doesn't lie in owning the object?
That is a great question.
What shifts inside us when we accept that the most profound way to engage with the space is to pay close attention, add our own small fragment to the map, and then deliberately walk away, leaving the mystery intact for the next person to discover?
Wow. Something to think about the next time you are out looking for something you didn't expect to find. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.